Hi, alternates. We're picking up on day 5 of the Georgia versus Nicholas Kassotis trial. It's Monday, August 11th, 2025, and we're back for another lengthy interrogation video. But this time, it takes place in Georgia after Nicholas's extradition from Pennsylvania. Agent Sands is back on the stand since he was the lead agent during this interrogation. And Nicholas, well, he's back in the hot seat. Now, before I begin, just a reminder to click that subscribe button so that you are notified as soon as we drop the very next episode. All right, so let's get to this interrogation. Nicholas looks real down in the dumps in this video. He's wearing civilian clothes and he's real quiet, kind of timid, looking down a lot, but that's just his demeanor in the beginning as the detectives ask him questions. What I noticed right off the bat, though, was that Nicholas was concerned about one thing and one thing only. He was concerned about his dog, Rusty. He wanted to know where Rusty was and if he was safe. Of course, the agents assured him that Rusty was well taken care of. They pick up the interrogation asking Nick about the day of Mindy's father's hip surgery, or maybe it was like the pickup, which was the next day. And Nick explains that he was on his way to see Mindy at whatever medical facility she was at, but someone called him and told him to wait before he arrived. Eventually, he drives to the location, which he can't recall where exactly it was or who the provider was, or really any of the names of any of the providers. He really can't recall anything. Well, he says he gets there and they bring him into a back room and he's kind of thinking like, oh, okay, cool. They're going to give me discharge instructions on how to take care of my wife, which is usual when someone leaves the hospital. But instead, they reveal to him that Mindy is dead. He never asks to see her body, but he assures the detectives that he's devastated. He then admits that he visited a pet store and a Home Depot and ran some other errands. Now, I can't recall off the top of my head if this was immediately before he went to pick up Mindy or after he found out that she was deceased. Oh, and when they asked him about his cell phone, he said that he had turned it off because that's what he had been told to do. Remember, he's still talking about this Jim fellow and the security measures that he has to take with regards to those people. Detectives then quickly say, come on, Nick, we know you're lying. And Nick defends himself. He's like, listen, I am not lying. He does admit that throughout the many years that he has lived, he has lied a lot because of Jim McIntyre. But he didn't hurt his wife, he assures investigators. Investigators then say, listen, we know that this entire thing about you and Mindy running from place to place was not really about security, but it was really to escape your duty to pay the $1 million settlement to your first wife. To which Nick says, oh no, that settlement? Jim took care of that settlement issue. No, Jim did not, they tell him. And Nick says, yeah, they did. Detectives tell Nick how interesting it is that he allegedly took Mindy to all these doctor's appointments and then she died, yet he can't even recall the names or the locations of where he took her. At one point, Nick admits to picking up meds at the pharmacy for Mindy on prior occasions, but says that those were telehealth appointments, so that's why he has no clue who those doctors are. During this interrogation, the investigators are a bit disorganized, and I really think it's because they are trying to catch Nick off guard. Because at one point, they're like, Nick, you were seeing someone online, weren't you? No, he says. They ask, did you find out that Mindy wasn't really pregnant? And Nick says, what are you talking about? Mindy was pregnant. There is some back and forth, and the investigators say, listen, your car, the one that you ended up burning down to the ground, well, we caught it on surveillance footage near where Mindy's body parts were found. Oh, and not only that, but the car has an internal computer system, and that tracked you to that location as well. So they're like, we have surveillance, and we have your car tracker. And your phone, that tracked you there as well. As I was watching this interrogation, you can see Nick thinking now. He admits that he was instructed by someone to go out to meet someone, but that he met them at a house. Detectives are like, listen, buddy, there are no houses around there. Nick then says that he was instructed to dispose of some totes. But he assures the investigators that Mindy's body parts and Mindy's body was not in the totes and he had nothing to do with her death. When confronted why he was at the location of her disposal for 40 minutes, Nick says he wasn't there. He was at some guy's house, and then he had to pee, and the guy made him pee outside by some sort of tree. After Nick tells this story, detectives ask him again, "Where did you go?"
The story is not what you're telling. Why is it so different?
What do you mean, sir?
Your elaborate story of on the run all this time and all the periods of stuff and the web of lies, why is it so different than what happened with her and that the record shows, the evidence shows, the DNA shows? Why is all that? Is you're being set up, is what you're saying?
I don't know, sir. Okay. I don't understand.
So your phone and your own person that you said was turned off.
Yes, sir.
Still goes to those containers on a property that's 25,000 acres down a dirt road, 40 minutes from the house in Savannah, that matches the GPS, all the stuff matches. That knife that you purchased at Home Depot ends up there as well. The cleaning, the purchasing, the credit card swipes, the story that continued, the lies that you told to many others. Some people who you think are still on your side are actually some of the best witnesses against you. They know the story, and they're going to tell that story when they testify.
The Capital One card you're using for all these years, getting food, takeout, lodging, paying for all the places, the Airbnbs, the Verbos you stayed at, we have all those records.
Yes, sir.
And the Renaissance, the current setup.
Yes, sir.
So you're saying it's big, everybody's created all these records of items that were on your person on that same very day, in the same very vehicle you were driving, at that location. You know what the coincidences of that were, and the chances or probabilities of that happening?
Sir,
Just like the airplane that you're landed into this room right now,
yes,
that ain't gonna happen.
Yes, sir. None of this feels random to me. But I don't understand it. But I know where that knife is.
Okay. So now, just to move on, the knife has nothing to do with anything. The day that you bought the knife and traveled down the road, where did you go?
I left. I stopped for gas. I stopped at Home Depot. I believe I stopped and talked to Jim.
With Mindy's body in the car.
No, sir. No, sir. And then I drove out there.
Out where?
I don't know. I believe I had an address to a church, and then I had a GPS location after that.
The first story was you had GPS coordinates.
Yeah, yes.
You mentioned nothing of address, I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, so, but I've been trying to think about this. I believe they said to go to a church, like, not to pull in, but I believe it was like a waypoint.
What did they say? So Mindi didn't tell you this?
I forget exactly.
So you forget back to the same story. It's easier to remember. Tom Sawyer says this. It's easier to remember the truth. While we're talking here today, so many more lies keep coming up.
No, sir. Sir, I've done weird stuff for years.
So back to your travels of the day that you bought the knife.
Yes.
Where'd you go?
I stopped for gas. I stopped at Home Depot. I believe then I stopped and spoke to Jim. And then I drove to the location I was supposed to go to.
Okay. Well, what did you do there?
I stopped. The gentleman came out of the house.
The 40 minutes that you were there, there's no house at that 40 minutes that you stopped at. So we can cut the house out if you'd like. So you don't have to remember a house because there was no house.
I stopped at a house.
Okay. How long did you stay?
I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
He talked to me for a couple minutes about something he was doing. He had some stuff in his front yard.
Okay. So what else did you do?
I asked if I could go to the bathroom. I peed behind a tree. He directed me over there. I removed the things from the back of the car, and I don't know.
Where were the things left? You said you removed them from the car at his house. Where were they left? Like, just on the ground?
Yeah, he said he would take care of them.
Okay. How close to the house?
30, 40 feet.
There is no house, remember?
So I stopped at a house.
You may have stopped at the house, but when you took the containers out, there is no house.
There's a reason why that keeps sticking in your head. You said in Pennsylvania, you took them out, you falsely said I set them in the dirt. I set them in the dirt. That gray and black container. And it wasn't your personal property that was in those containers, it was Mindi.
No, sir. I packed those containers myself. It was her laptop. It was...
You did pack them yourself. With your wife's dismembered body.
Sir, that's not true.
That is true. And you had them in your car when you drove down that dirt road.
Sir, that's not true.
That is what you placed in the dirt, 30 or 40 feet off the roadway.
Sir, that is not true.
That is absolutely true, Nick.
Exactly what the record showed.
Sir, that's not what happened.
I don't know what you know about the country and dirt roads and the property that you all own, that you've ever been to that type of property before. But you happen to hit the security cameras on the entrance to 25,000 acres, which is a very large property. Your phone, in your vehicle's phone, everything, every stop is recorded. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
She says
So your 40 minutes that you're there, you're at the exact same spot where your wife's torso was found. The other stop where you dug with the shovel
And hit roots.
and hit roots, that's recorded on the very same information. The next spot that you stopped and buried her skull is covered, the exact same stuff. Even the next spot with the leg is covered. So the stops are, I mean, it's like watching it on TV. It's not, there's no issues here. It's very clear.
So
The big question
that
is,
happened.
big question, it's even the pictures, there's pictures of them going by on a property. You may have seen the log truck ahead of you. There's a big truck hauling wood. Guys that spotted you down there. The big question is why. It's no longer if.
Sir,
The big
I've
question-
never hurt Mindi.
The big question is why.
Sir, I've never hurt Mindi.
You never carried her to the doctor. She never went to the doctor. You never went to the
A
doctor.
doctor didn't come by your house to do those checks.
Yes.
You came directly from that house to that location. It's very clear. From your house to Home Depot to the scene. To multiple scenes, I guess we would say. Those stops are recorded, captured by your car. They're actually corroborated by your cell phone that you say is turned off. But apparently your particular phone still records and still sends out pings or messages that overlap with that. So the big question is, were you asked to go to a location and retrieve Mindy's body? Or did you kill her and transport her? Or did something happen in that house that you just can't talk about and then you dealt with it from there? Because it clearly had started at that house, then it went on.
Sir, no,
Okay.
none of this happened.
Okay. We know it happened. It's clearly that it happened. So you're saying that the cell record's wrong, the picture's wrong from the security cameras, everybody's wrong with this whole picture. Your purchase of walk-in from the Home Depot, that purchase is wrong.
No, sir, I
Your
worked-
travels that day, that's all. And just so happens coincidentally, she's found at the location you were at.
Your wife found where you were at.
Sir, it doesn't feel coincidental to me, but I never hurt Mindi. I never saw Mindi after she passed away.
And you're gonna stick with the last time you saw her was
It was Saturday.
where?
At the house,
at the
perfect.
house. So how long did she stay in the house before she was gone? Are you telling me like you came home and found her dead, or what's the story?
No, sir, I'm saying I came home and she was gone. I got messages from her for days.
Okay.
Telling me things to do, things we needed.
I've been doing this 28 years. I don't watch a lot of them, but a lot of people watch TV shows and stories. Read a lot of books that have these kind of stories in them. You have characters that you've envisioned and made in your stories, and some of your stories, but none of your stories before a jury in Georgia are going to go. I want you to understand that up front. It's a very clear picture. Even though it puzzled, you burned some of the pieces. You shifted and manipulated some of the pieces. You've constantly lied to many, many people in your life, and have continued those lies. That's not going to continue to go. You understand that, right? The big question is why.
Sir, anything I ever lied about, I was told to lie about.
Okay. So, you see, right now, if you said you killed her, you'd say, because I was told to lie.
Sir, I never killed her.
So if Jim told you to say that, you would say that?
No, sir.
Okay. So my point is, everything you do, if Jim told you to jump off a cliff, you were going to jump off a cliff?
Yes, sir. For years we did exactly what Jim told us to do.
So
He
you
wanted full access to our lives. He said he was keeping us safe.
Did Jim tell you to burn your car?
Sir, I didn't burn my car.
Well, the burns that you got that you described to the insurance adjuster for your medical records,
Yes.
when you described burns going up into your nose and your face, it sounds like a flash burn from fumes. Sounds like a flash burn from fumes from an accelerant.
Sir, I opened the car door, and that's when the flames got mine.
But what was important in the car that got burned up that day?
I thought my phone was in there.
What else was in there?
I don't know. I had some random stuff in there.
Was there a check in there?
Yes, there was a check in there.
Huh?
Yes.
What was the check for?
The check was for a house.
For a house?
Yes.
Was you and Sam?
Yes.
What did you tell Sam happened with that check?
It burned up.
And what was the insurance company going to do about that?
I don't think the insurance company had anything to do with the check.
Was it a sizable check?
Yes, sir.
How much?
$860,000.
Just gone.
Yes, sir.
Almost $1 million check gone.
Yes, sir.
And you couldn't get a replacement?
No. No, I spoke to Jim afterwards, and he said he would get a replacement, but it would take a while.
Interesting.
What were you doing out on that road that day anyways?
I had gone to pick up the check. He said he would have somebody meet me out there. I had come up to Liz. He told me to meet in Liz. I got flowers. I didn't pick them up that day. I got water at Target.
But you also said something else up in Pennsylvania about that day when you stopped the car. You said you were on a long, straight stretch of road out of the curvy hilliness you've been driving on where you can see in both lanes. Why do you think that's important in your mind? Is it so you could see other cars if they came while you're doing what you're doing?
No, sir.
I think you're living a web of lies. One of your close friends described you best, said you talk in parallel realities. It's like the story you've sold them, it blends in the truths of what's going on in your life with what you want it to be. That's what you're doing here.
No, sir.
You bought a knife for window screening that you were fixing to leave this Airbnb.
Yeah.
So you buy this knife, you go back to the house where Mindy's at, then you go out here with these 2 totes that are packed with stuff and put them in a place where her body's found.
No, sir. I left them with the man.
You did not leave them with the man.
Yes, I did.
You did not leave them with the man. Your car is traveling out there. He's already told you. We put you and your cellular device in your vehicle out there in these places where your wife's body is found, dismembered, with the knife that you just bought.
No, sir. That knife
The Milwaukee
came to
knife?
Pennsylvania. Yes.
That knife did not go to Pennsylvania.
Yes, it did, sir. I told you exactly where to find it. Have you looked there?
Yes, and it's not there. It's a carbon steel blade. It would be burned up in the car. Very clear.
Under the thing.
Under the thing.
Under the thing.
And then there's one other place it could be.
That knife's really irrelevant because that knife was only used in the end. It's not, doesn't have anything to do with actually the murder or the killing at all. And that knife was after the fact. How would I know that?
I have no idea, sir. I didn't know that.
That comes
I
from
didn't know anything.
a lot of 28 years of doing this. Like I said, your story is fine, but your story is not reality. Even to the point of the new wife. You know, when you apply for a marriage license.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Remember applying for that marriage license?
Yes, sir.
Remember the questions it asked?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Did you catch that part about the burned out car and the fact that there was a check inside? You might recall from day 4's testimony where Nick's third wife testified that Nick had picked up a check that they were going to use to pay for a new house. But the check? Well, it burned down in the car, and the third wife had to beg Nick to file a car insurance claim. Okay, so let's talk marriage license or marriage certificates. Because remember, this man, Nick, was still technically married to Mindi because even though she was dead, there was no death certificate after her death in November or December of 2022. Well, investigators get a copy of Nick's marriage certificate to his third wife. And on it, when Nick filled it out, he said that he had only been married once and that his wife died in 2020, which remember is the same story he told his third wife. Then investigators get into his family. His claim that he was scared of his dad, that after Mindy's death, he went to Florida, then Alabama, and then at some point he cashed a $5,000 check. But this part is a little bit on the juicy side. Remember, this guy was in the Navy, right? Well, apparently he submitted two different resignations to the Navy. One resignation for active duty and then one from the reserves. I'm not sure if that's accurate because the investigators were just talking all over Nick. But when they asked him a second time, what was your reason for leaving the Navy? Nick simply responded that he didn't remember. With regards to Nick faking his own death to Mindy's parents, remember that email, Nick claims he never did that. Investigators tell him that they tracked the emails sent to Betsy, but they didn't show him the proof. So we don't know whether they were just saying that to say that or whether that really exists, and we'll see it later in this trial. So let's get into Nick's explanation of Jim.
If you will, tell me some more about Jim.
Jim came into our life in late 2017, early 2018. I'm not sure what had happened first, but we had issues with our bank accounts, both our joint accounts and individual accounts. We had issues with our mail, just going missing, not showing up.
I remember all this from Pennsylvania.
Yes, sir.
So, and you said at some point you talked to the FBI.
So I believe both Mindy and I filed online FBI reports.
Online FBI
Yes,
reports.
sir.
So y'all didn't sit down with anybody?
Well, I thought we did, but several days afterwards, I tried to leave a message for somebody that I knew worked at DOJ. I wasn't sure that it reached him because the phone.
Who did you know at DOJ?
His name was Dave Carpel. He was an attorney in their organized crime division.
Oh, butcher his last name, C-A-R-P-E-L?
I believe it is Karpel. I knew he was a reservist, and I had called the RILSA, not the RILSA, whatever the criminal justice department is, and asked if they had a recall number for him. I called and I left a message, but I wasn't sure I had reached him.
What about, okay, so I'm clear of all that, what you alleged with Jim back then, and then up until when you went and filed for your marriage license with Samantha.
Okay.
Okay? Then what happened with Jim?
After I filed for the marriage license,
Mm-hmm.
he told me how to fill it out. He told me he didn't think I should be married to Samantha. That he thought I should leave Pennsylvania.
Why say that?
He said he didn't think it was a good idea. He thought that it was too soon for me, that it wouldn't be healthy, that given my past, I would be better off trying to settle down and start over somewhere else.
Where did the money come from that he gave you in the check?
My understanding was that it came from money that he has held in trust for me for some time, so to keep it safe.
And where would the money come from to be put in the trust?
From work on this software of his. I don't know if it was licensing or sale. I was told different things over different years.
What about Peter? Do you know Peter from Microsoft?
I used to speak regularly with somebody I thought was Peter Anneman. It was somebody who I had actually met.
How do you spell his last name?
Anaman.
And he was somebody you met at a JAG conference?
Yes, at a Veterans Legal Career Fair.
And what kind of stuff did he talk to you about?
When we originally met, we talked about cyber investigations, things of that nature, the things that he worked on there. He's the head of one of their cyber investigations units. And when I first met in one of my first meetings with Jim, I had referenced, that I was looking for remote work, that I'd spoken to somebody at Microsoft, and he said that he knew him and would put me back in contact with him and put in a good word.
When was this?
This was sometime in that late 2017, early 2018.
Before the world went sideways with COVID?
Yeah, I mean, 2 years before. But I had left active duty unofficially sometime at the beginning of September 2017. Officially, it was September 30th. The military does this, what's it called, a terminal leave, where if you have vacation time,
They burned it up.
it's better for you if you just take it, than don't work. And the best benefit would then to be working, but my higher day didn't work. I had accepted a job with the Board for Correction and Naval Records, doing veterans work, and
What happened with that?
I was there from, I think my start date was October 3rd, whatever that meant. It was a Monday in early October, the first Monday in October it was. And it was a bad fit in a couple of different ways. My client there, the person that I worked in an office with and provided legal advice to, was the head of the Board for Correction and Naval Records. Her name was Beth something. My boss, my reporting senior, was an attorney with the Navy's Office of Manpower and Reserve Affairs. And they had very different views of what the role should be. Beth thought that Beth wanted to concentrate on moving cases, and their view was that this is a legal position. There are a lot of people there who review cases. Like, you should be concentrating on different issues than that. I felt like it was a bad setup from very early on. Mindi was in a car accident in late October. We were both in the car accident. Mindi was very hurt in the car accident. And I was away for a week at a conference, but I mean, by the time, I think before Beth and I had spent 2 full weeks in the office actually together, she had accidentally forwarded me an email where she said to somebody she worked with that she had wished that she had hired him for the position instead of me. Which, as somebody who at that point was probationary, but kind of put the handwriting on the wall that I should be looking at other options, and I began immediately. And this was going on while we were having these other issues with email and I forget exactly when the vandalism started. I believe it started at this point. I came home one day and Mindi said that an FBI agent had come to the house. That he was serious about what was going on and wanted to meet with us both and talk about it. And I think we met a couple days later.
And that was Jim.
That was Jim.
Did they show you any credentials or anything?
I don't recall.
So, how did you tell or inform Jim that Mindi had passed away?
I think I sent him a message that night.
How'd you send him a message?
On Signal.
On Signal?
Yep.
And you don't remember any phone numbers you called him on or anything?
So that he changed phone numbers more frequently than I changed phone numbers.
And what did he say?
He said he was shocked, that he was really upset. He asked what I needed.
So he didn't ask about getting a death certificate or anything?
No, sir.
Okay. And you did go to Boston and George Washington Law and stuff, right?
In Georgetown, yes, sir.
Georgetown?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you know how important contracts and certificates are.
Yes, sir.
Would you not think that you might need that in order to move on and get remarried?
No, sir, it hadn't occurred to me. It was, I don't know, I was juggling a lot of things, but
What kind of things are you juggling?
I mean, leaving the area, finishing up the name change, and I trying to contact some friends of Mindy's who were hard to find, or harder to track down. Her old boss took I think close to 2 weeks before I was able to reach her.
And why was it important you reached him?
They've been very close. I wanted to tell.
How close would it have been if y'all had been hiding from everybody?
Before that.
Before that?
Yeah, before that.
So that would have been years, right?
It had been years, yes, sir. I don't know if they spoke in the intervening years much after or at all, but I felt Mindy's Betsy and I spoke and we were trying to think of people that it would be important to tell. That's one of the names.
And as soon as policy starts probing you about when are we going to be able to have this funeral, when are we going to be able to get her ashes, when are we going to be able to do anything, you don't find it ironic that she gets an email saying that you died in a car wreck?
No, sir. I didn't know she got an email saying I died in the car.
But you suddenly just stopped talking to her.
She stopped talking to me, so I had some things stolen from me, and I spoke to Jim, and he said that he was worried. I'd spoken to him a few days before, and I said that I'd spoken with him, and I was a little concerned because I had said where I was, and he said that at the time he said, okay, let's.
Nick, does any of this make sense to you?
No, sir. It didn't make sense to me that they would have any sort of ill will towards me. But messages from them stopped. Like it was creepy. It was upsetting. And then I hear nothing from them. I didn't used to go more than 48 hours without hearing from them after they went to Hilton Head and I left the area. We talked all the time. We texted, and then messages from Jim says, hey, there's something concerning going on here. And
What's concerning? What's concerning? Maybe they lost a number.
No, what's concerning is that I have some stuff stolen in my car.
So now you can't talk to Frank and Betsy?
Jim
You can talk to everybody else. You can talk to Mindy's old boss.
I already spoken with him at this point, but he just said while he looked into it, be safe about it.
Everybody had to deal with finding out Mindi died from you. They hear it. They really can't get a lot of good closure because there's none of the normal processes. There's no planning a funeral. There's no attending a funeral. There's no any type of remembrance of life or anything put out there. Nothing going on that gives people the ability to have some closure and say goodbye.
Yes, sir. That's upsetting to me too.
You're robbing the family of that. And you're going to put them through all these lies that continue to spring out that no, we've already showed you the evidence. We've already told you about what we have and what everything shows. You start to see it. When you talk about putting those totes down in the dirt, you start to see it.
Sir,
I don't think you're a monster. I think you've been running for too long, and this was a way out.
Isn't it interesting how Nick can't remember anyone's last name? Throughout the interrogation, the investigators even did the old switcheroo, where they both left the room and only one returned to continue the interrogation. And they try this sympathizing maneuver, telling Nick, hey, listen, we know marriage can be hard as heck. Hey, I hate my ex-wife too. One investigator asks him if maybe he got mad when he found out that Mindi wasn't actually pregnant. Now, at this point, Nick reassures the investigators that he thought his wife was pregnant up until that very interrogation. Investigators then ask him, was there an argument between the couple? But Nick says there was nothing because he didn't kill his wife. After this clip, the state called Lauren Satcher. She worked for the GBI in the forensics department, specifically as a weapons and tool mark specialist. During her analysis, she had the suspect tool, which was the knife found near the torso, as well as the brand new deer processing kit the investigators had purchased for Bass Pro. Remember, the state has proof via those business records that Nick purchased this exact kit from Bass Pro in late November. So basically, Miss Satcher was asked to determine or exclude or include weapons that could have been used to dismember Mindi's body. And y'all, I'm not even kidding right now. They showed images of the actual bones and they were very clean, but I almost passed out. I wasn't really expecting it, but I will say in the few seconds that the pictures would pop up on the screen, you could see several cuts across the bone. This expert made various determinations during her testimony, right? But none of them were conclusive. She explained the different types of shapes that certain knives or power tools leave behind on bone. For example, a V shape or a W shape. She determined that some of the cuts on the bone were consistent with the saw that was found in the deer processing kit. Actually, her words were, she cannot exclude the saw. This witness then walked through all the items in the deer processing kit. I should add that she did determine that the knife found at the scene did not cause the cuts, as that was a smooth knife blade and the victim had various W-shaped cuts. But I will say that the prosecutor did do a good job with basically explaining that because there was no flesh found on the bones, or this expert did not examine flesh, that she implied almost that it was possible that that knife was used to cut through the skin and through the meat rather than cut through the bone. All right, that is a lot of morbid thoughts for like one moment. Okay. The next witness on the stand was GBI Special Agent Christian Johnson, and he was there very briefly. He drafted various search warrants for the Airbnb, T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon business records. The Airbnb records showed that Nick Kassotis rented the house in Georgia from June 30th through December 13th, 2022. They also obtained bank records that showed that Airbnb payment, or like the payment for that Airbnb, was made directly from Nick's bank account. Next up was FBI agent James Burney. He's on the cellular analysis survey team, and he was certified to testify as a cellular data or cellular device information expert. Whew, that's a mouthful. He was basically the cell phone and telematics triangulation expert who testified if a phone or a car were pinging in a certain area. His testimony corroborated that Nick was near Home Depot when surveillance caught Nick at checkout on the morning of November 29th, 2022. Agent Bernie was also able to corroborate that Nick Kassotis' phone and his vehicle were near Bass Pro the day earlier, like a day earlier on November 28th. So this is where Agent Bernie really earned his keep. When they introduced a PowerPoint presentation showing the cell phone triangulation, the Ford Explorer car telematics, the pump station video showing Nick's car, and the body parts, it was all laid out on a map. On November 29th, 2022, Nick visited Home Depot before 9 a.m. Then his car is clocked driving near where Mindy's body parts were abandoned, basically. But guess what? His cell phone, well, he does not, or that cell phone does not register with any cell tower from between 10:15 a.m. through 12:03 p.m. A phone not pinging could mean various things according to this expert. It can mean that it's off, it's in airplane mode, or it's in Wi-Fi mode, or that they are in such a bad service area that they are just like not showing up anywhere. However, this expert did do a drive test, and he said that in this location where his car was still found, there would have been a connection if the phone was on or trying to get a signal. And that alternates is where we left off today. So be sure to click follow so that you are notified as soon as we launch day 5. With that, alternates, see you here tomorrow. And remember, think like a juror, decide like one too.